All right. Well, welcome to Tuesday Night with County Executive Pittman. And our topic tonight is Pittman and Buckley unscripted. And the Buckley in the Pittman and Buckley, of course, is Mayor Gavin Buckley of Annapolis. And Pittman is yours truly, Stuart Pittman. And I think both of our staffs are a little nervous about what might happen tonight because any elected official is supposed to stay on script. But I thought it would be fun to let people see another side of their county executive and their mayor. We have a good relationship. We like each other, which is always helpful. So we'll mix it up. We'll talk about what it's like to go from being in business to being in politics and being in government. We'll probably talk a little about our families. But we'll also talk about the cities the issues that the city and the county work together on, and some of our shared priorities. So I don't know. That's what I have in mind. What do you have in mind, Gavin?
Well, first of all, it's an honor to be here. I'm so excited to be on the same screen with you, Stuart. We've had a lot of fun in our few years together. I do always remember the first time you were elected and I made you do the countdown at City Dock with me, and you were elected as a Democrat. And so I made you be my blue brother, and I thought that was a great start to our relationship. So you played along, which is always important, I think, in politics, right? You have to have a sense of humor. You have to be able to laugh at yourselves.
I didn't have a choice, man. You produced the hat and the glasses. You went out and got them, and so I had to play along. I got to tell you though that one of my sons wore that hat for Halloween.
Awesome.
That was fun. I got to say that's one of the things that I like about you. I mean, when you were elected, I was there that night at Metropolitan. I remember how packed it was and the energy of it. This was 2017, a year before I came along on the scene. I can't even remember. I can't even remember if I had announced. I don't think I had announced yet that I was going to run for county executive. And, but I was kind of inspired by what you pulled off in Annapolis. I remember Steve Shue walking in and you guys going to the bar together and having a drink. Or I don't know who bought the drink. You probably bought the drink, didn't you?
He was very gracious. Yeah.
Oh, he did? Even though it was your restaurant, he bought the drink.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it wasn't long after that I guess I announced that I was going to run, and you showed up at our barn and spoke at the announcement. We had candidates that were running, and all of us were pretty inspired that you had won in 17 and we had our election coming up in 18. And so ever since then,
I think it was the start of a blue wave, right? I mean, I know that sounds sort of cliche, but a lot of different people decided to run for office. People who don't really need to be in politics if they don't want to be, they don't have to be in politics, but they want to see something different, right? They figure if someone's not going to do it, they're going to try to do it themselves. And I know that you've done that.
They sure got something different. They sure got something different in you and me, didn't they?
Yeah. I knew your campaign was going to be different when I showed up to that barn. I was like, what the hell? This is awesome.
Well, I knew your campaign was going to be different when it started out with a mural on the side of your restaurant. Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, neither of us had ever run for office. I think, I don't know about your wife, but she never, she actually told me before that she would divorce me if I ever ran for office. And I guess she did come around, and hopefully yours did too. No, we're not your conventional sort of politicians, I guess you could say. But I've find you, I got to say that you're one of my favorite people in elected office because you're completely, well, it seems to me that you're completely honest. Maybe you're not, but it seems to me that you say things that maybe your staff doesn't expect you to say, and you announce them before they're ready, and they're constantly catching up and trying to keep up with that. but that comes from basically honesty and commitment and desire to do best what you can for the city of Annapolis. And hopefully I'm somewhat the same way. But
no, you're worse than I am, which is awesome. You give me a lot of coverage there. But it's so good because it's about passion, isn't it? It's what you're passionate about, and there's not phony. It comes from the heart for you. I know, definitely, for sure. I just want to get back to that wife stuff. For many of us that haven't run for office, it's a big lifestyle change, right? And it's very hard on your wives because people are so mean. And I joke about being a bartender, a bar owner, where people love you because you're giving them drinks and food and that. And then you go into politics and people hate you and they don't even know you. And I'm like, you might disagree with me, but I'd still have a beer with you or a coffee. We could talk. But I mean, that's what's got wrong in our country. We can't look each other in the eye anymore. And my running buddies, there's bleeding heart liberals and there's Tea Party Republicans, and we all stir each other up. We make jokes about each other, but we still can sit down and talk and look each other in the eye. And it's terrible that we've gone into this sort of tribal thing that we're in now.
Yeah, but it is one of the good things about local politics that there are people who get angry and they hate, and they kind of, usually it seems to me like it's because they put you and me and other local people into this political box, and the boundaries are set by the national politicians or the press, and those aren't even the issues that really matter. And locally, most of the stuff that we get done in the county level is 7-0 votes, Democrats and Republicans. And you don't have many Republicans in the city. I guess you got one on the council, but
I got a few that act like it. No.
Watch what you say there. Off scripts again. But it's true. I mean, I feel the same way. I've got people on the board of Farm Bureau that I've worked with for years, and from down here in South County. I'm a farmer, and I know they bunch of them voted for Trump, but I got to say I trust my life with them. They're I don't understand how they put 2 and 2 together and get Trump, but I'll never understand that part. But I understand some of their values, and I trust them as human beings, and so. It is sad that people gotta hate,
It's true. How are we going to find that middle ground? You're like, my tribe is not better than your tribe. Your tribe's not better than mine. Our tribes like some different things, but at the root of it all, we want the same things. We want our kids to have a better life. We want our schools to be, good. We want clean air and clean water. I don't think any of those things are partisan. But I do think it's the media that whips it up, and social media especially, I think, has really not been healthy for our world.
Yeah, and I know you're going to agree with me on this once I say it, but I don't think of it as the middle ground. I mean, I think a lot of politicians are looking for the middle, where they're not, and they end up not standing for anything because they're trying to compromise with everybody. And I know that both you and I, if we believe in something, regardless of what the polls say or what we think, how people are going to react to it, if we know it's right, we go with it. And I think that puts us where people want us to be, which is believing in something, caring about people. Some people say I'm really progressive because I'm standing, I came out and I opposed the 287G immigration program. It was bad government. It was stupid to have local government doing the work of the federal government in our prisons for no really good reason that didn't benefit anybody. But it just made it harder for our law enforcement people to get along with the Hispanic community or immigrant community.
And we need a trust in that community, don't we, Stuart? I mean, we can get, if we have problems, we need people not to be afraid of the establishment to be able to talk to us.
And we need trust everywhere. I mean, trust in government, trust in not blind trust, but just understanding that the government is us. And when a bloke like you and a farmer like me just end up at the top of it, hopefully people get that it is just It is just us, and we're doing our time. You know, we'll do our piece inside, and then we'll go on the outside, and we'll start pushing from the outside again, probably. But so I mean, you're a business person. You've you worked your way up in the restaurant world, and now are a partner in a number of restaurants, and you know, I've sort of dabbled back and forth between the nonprofit sector and actually farming and running a small business on the farm to make a living. And so both of us end up in these government bureaucracies that exist when we walk into them. What's it been like for you entering that world? What's frustrating, or what's kind of rewarding?
Things take a long time, you know, so I think everybody has to understand that, you know, it's not as easy as being in business where you can make a decision and then act on that decision immediately. There's a lot of things you have to line up in government, but I do think it's beneficial for government, for guys like you or me to come into government, because we're solution oriented. We don't expect people to do things for us. You know, we have a plan, we work out a way to pay for it, and then we move towards those plans, you know. So I think that's beneficial in government, because, you know, I'm sure there is waste, the thing that everybody gets frustrated with, but I also like to point out too, you know, that there's so much that we get that we don't realize that we get from government, right? The streets that we walk in on, the water we drink, you know, all these things, they didn't just appear, you know, so you have to strike a balance, right?
Yeah. It's I know one of the things that I've watched with you is, you know, you're very clear. You have your values and the things that you want to get done, whether it's getting cars off the road and bicycles onto it, people eating out on the street, you know, and then you get pushed back, whether it's for, you know, people who don't want change, the businesses, and sometimes from your very own, you know, city council, has been probably challenging to work with. And I got to say that had I not had people when I came in who really knew how it worked better than I did, particularly the politics, you know, with other elected officials and the county council in my case, who knew better than I did how that system worked, I probably would have become really frustrated and failed on a number of fronts. In my relationships with some of those other electeds had I not had.
But that's good management. That's good leadership. You put those people in to help you make those decisions and guide you. That's what leadership is, isn't it? You know, who you pick, who you surround yourself
with.
Well,
it's certainly, yeah. I mean, I think it is for both of us, being surrounded by smart people who have a variety of diverse skills and ways of looking at the world. And I think for you and I, we come from the same place. We want everybody to want to live where we live. We want people to be think that I wish I could live in Anne Arundel County. I wish I could live in Annapolis. You know, what a great place. I know that everyone that comes to visit here thinks it's fantastic, but I want this to be, you know, the best state in America. You know, I want all the cool things to be here. I want, you know, it to be our kids to love it. And I think that's, you know, where we come from and why we're trying to do this. You know, it's almost self-serving, really, you know, so and I think we're on the way. You know, we've made some really positive changes, and I think, you know, on the environment stuff, I think that I really appreciate your leadership on that, Stuart, because you know we've got to leave this planet better than the way we found it, right? And so you know, our kids are going to be asking some questions if we don't do some turnaround soon. So yeah, I mean, it's the city and the county are a little different in that, I mean, for the city, you all are a tourist destination. And, you know, there's a reason why our tourism board is called Visit Annapolis and Anne Arundel County. I mean, partly from historical things, but people think, most people don't know what Anne Arundel County is, but they've heard of Annapolis. And Annapolis is a destination, and it's got so many cool things, historic things about it. And then you're bringing in some modern things and, you know, music, entertainment, and you know what you've done on West Street even before you were mayor. So part of the lifeline is attracting tourism, is attracting dollars, you know, to the businesses, and then that helps with the tax base, if that dies, then it's going to be too expensive for the residents to live there, and people know that. In Anne Arundel County, we've got some people who think we grew too fast and we didn't build the infrastructure for it. There are people that are really kind of, I mean, in both places, there are people who feel like development is the worst thing in the world and they want to stop all of it. Neither of us feel that way. We just have to be smart about how we do it. But there is a real question in Anne Arundel County. Are we trying to attract people to live here? Is that, I'm not sure we really are. There's huge demand by people who want to live in Anne Arundel County. There's tons of demand, and there's employment too that we have, and where we're trying to catch up and get to the point where we have the infrastructure and the good schools and the services and the transportation networks and getting cars off the road. And then but you really need to attract tourism, right?
Yeah, I mean, but I when I say that, I just mean in terms of what a great place you live in. I'm jealous that I don't live there, that sort of stuff. It's not like some thing we work on, but I mean, I do want people to invest in this area. I do want businesses more diverse businesses here, more eclectic choices for people. I think that makes your city much more livable. There's plenty of, I mean, I feel lucky every day that I'm the mayor of this city because I feel like I live in a holiday resort. I can walk to the end of my street and jump into my inflatable and motor around to City Dock, which is awesome, or I can get on my bike and get there, you know, just as fast or faster, and then, or a scooter, you know, I don't have to worry about parking or anything like that. It's a real kind of livable, a great lifestyle. And then, you know, it's authentic. It is a true historic city. You know, malls try to replicate what we have, the real deal, you know. So like I say, I feel very lucky. You know?
Well, let's focus on Annapolis for a bit, because Annapolis is, it's not just your concern, it's also my concern, because it's part of Anne Arundel County, and we want Annapolis to thrive. So you're kind of a visionary where you know, you probably had a vision of West Street being what it is before it got there, and you helped to make it happen before you were mayor. And so now, you know, you've looked at City Dock and what it is and what it could be, and Main Street and all of that. And I've been kind of inspired by a lot of your vision, but you want to tell us something about the City Dock project and what you see downtown becoming?
So when I came to West Street, it had fallen on hard times, and we moved it, I like to say, from a red light district to an arts district. It was a place where you would buy drugs. There was open prostitution when I first came to West Street, but it was different. It had some edge. The real estate, you know, the rents were cheap, you know, but it was a way we managed to change its identity and destigmatize it. And now, you know, thousands of people come there for First Sunday arts festivals and chocolate festivals. When I ran, I said that we could do better at our City Dock. Our City Dock shouldn't just be a parking lot. It shouldn't just be t-shirt shops. You know, there should be some other choices there. There should be some authenticity. You know, you go to New England towns and you can tell that, you know, lobstermen work here. You know, it's in the fabric of the city. You can't really tell that crabbers work downtown or oystermen work downtown. We need to restore some of that feeling. So in a big, ambitious project here that we are working with the county and the state and our federal partners and the Naval Academy, we are going to build a new garage, expand the capacity of the garage. The garage we have is at the end of its useful life. And then when that garage is built, we're going to take roughly, you know, 100 cars off of City Dock, and we're going to use that space as a public space after we raise it 6 feet. And that 6 feet, raise, and that green space is going to be a border or a wall that will protect us against sea level rise. There'll be a gate system in there as well. The park will filter stormwater. At the same time, we'll realign all our stormwater plans. So we'll have this amazing public space that will not only be programmable, but it will be a great way for us to deal with sea level rise, because we know wherever you are on climate change or global warming or whatever, the truth is the water is heating up and the water is rising, and it's undeniable. So not only do we have to deal with that in our 17 miles of coastline, this county that has 100 and so I don't exactly know,
500,
has, has to
530.
contend with that. And we both have to be proactive and make sure that we're laying the foundation for that protection. This will be a great start.
Yeah. Yeah. And I got to say that just the images from the plan that were put together, and you really did a lot of community engagement on that plan, are really exciting to me. We do have questions that have been coming in from people who are watching Facebook Live and elsewhere. And the very first one is from Kate, and it's, how are the two jurisdictions coordinating on climate change adaptation and mitigation efforts? And so you all came up with the plan to basically create this public space that was raised to deal with the tidal surges and sea level rise in Annapolis, and but needed to figure out a mechanism for funding. So we, together with Senator Elfreth and others, got a bill introduced last year and in the General Assembly that would allow jurisdictions to create a resilience authority, a place for the money to go through to be able to do projects like this. And so the first project, I mean, the answer to this question, Kate, is the first project is the City Dock project. And that's going to be sort of the poster child. But at the same time, we've got a team working on, with academics from the University of Maryland, are working on a plan for the whole county and looking at what our options are and mapping the areas where we know the sea level rise and the surges are gonna cause the most damage. So I think
the funding mechanism, Stuart, was, we know that the infrastructure challenges that are ahead of us are going to be massive amounts of money. So you have to think of ways to get them paid for that don't go directly to the taxpayer. So that funding mechanism is just one tool that we'll have in our toolkit so that we can raise money to build the infrastructure that's going to be needed.
Yeah, I was sitting in a meeting about a year ago with I think you were there, and at Visit Annapolis in Anne Arundel County, and they asked us if we had ideas for other ways to market our jurisdictions to tourism, and I think the topic came up of what's it going to be like in downtown Annapolis when this thing's being constructed. It's going to be a mess, and nobody's going to want to come, and they're going to lose. The businesses are going to lose money. And we said, well, you know what? Ecotourism is where people want to come and see how climate change is being dealt with. And so let's market the fact that this project is underway in Annapolis and that this work's being done in Anne Arundel County, and invite people to come and observe it and do tours and educate people about it. So that's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I remember you. I exactly remember that meeting. It was great that you brought that up, Stuart. I think that is, when you lead by example, when you have these things for people to come and see, then they can emulate it in other places, right? So I'm very excited, and there's a lot of opportunity for us on that front.
Yeah. All right, you want to talk about COVID?
Yep. So I would love to talk about that. It has been a tough year, and you've had a tough job, Stuart. I commend your leadership. And when I say it's hard for our partners, this is a tough time because we have to make tough decisions. I'm proud of the work you have done in the county, the work we've done in the city, the work the state has done to keep our state safe. I mean, we have gone through this. We are at a crossroads in Maryland. We should be in a lot worse position, but it's only through good leadership on your part that we have managed to keep the curve flattened and keep a respectable number in terms of infections and stuff like that. Now, right at the end of this year is tough. At the last time any of us would want it to be tough, it's tough, and we're having to make tough decisions, and I think mostly people understand what we're trying to do, but you can never keep people happy in politics, right? For half the people, you're not opening fast enough, and the other half, you're opening too fast. So
yeah. And I'm cool with that. I mean, the input that people give, they're absolutely deserve to have an opinion and express it on those questions. And I don't think anybody should be shut down for expressing those views. But I do I have to say that the work that was done early in the pandemic in the state of Maryland to push the curve down, the actions that were taken, they were pretty drastic. They probably hurt some businesses more than they needed to. You know, the essential versus non-essential designation, the big box stores being open and the little stores being closed. I mean, that was wrong. That was unfair. They had to figure something out and do it quick, and they did something. People thought that, you know, the visions were of what they'd seen in China and Italy and New York City, and nobody knew just, you know, what the death rate was going to be and how bad it was going to be. And having pushed, what all the public health people said is, if you push the numbers down, you can do that. It will be a success. And then people will think it wasn't so bad after all. And the second surge will come in the fall, just like it did with the Spanish flu. We know it's going to happen, and people will be wary, and then they're not going to want to do anything about it. And that's sort of how it's playing out right now. And it really is a scary moment because, you know, our hospital ICUs are just at the point where they're full, and now they're looking for other hospitals to send COVID patients to. And even the new one they opened up at Laurel isn't taking people right now, and won't be long before the convention center in Baltimore will be filled. And all the projections show that we don't really have the surge capacity that is needed to handle the patients that are coming if we don't do anything. And so it's really tough. Restaurants and bars, it's the toughest on, and their employees, it's tough on. So another question here is what do you see more? This is from Jacqueline. Do you see more assistance coming for local small businesses soon? I've seen some of the grants and initiatives. Are they spent out or still available? And so first of all, I have to say that it's been really hard for government. We have our CARES Act money. The county got 101 million. Some of it's gone to the city, and you've done programs, and then there are other programs that serve everybody. But that it's been really difficult to get funds to the people who are hit the hardest, which is the low-wage workers, 8 times more likely to lose their jobs than the high-wage workers. And it's actually, for local government, easier to get the money to businesses. And we have done that. So we still need to do eviction prevention more. We need to do, there are a number of questions here about, you know, what are you doing to help the low wage workers in the county? And the food distribution system has been amazing. Feed Anne Arundel, working with the restaurants, has been amazing. We got 7,000 turkeys before Thanksgiving, 200,000 meals out the week before that. Pretty incredible effort by a lot of nonprofits and people. But for the businesses, it's like a drop in the bucket, which is sad. So, you know, we did our $5 million first round of economic development grants, and then you've done some as well. We've done 5 million and another 5 million coming, so 10 million for restaurants just recently. But these are like $10,000 grants for them, and that's what, maybe a month and a half's rent. So that's why we need the federal government to step up. But there are businesses that are going to go under, huh?
Well, I know for sure what you've done in the county and what we've done in the city has been a massive help to those small businesses. And I've been around the country a little bit before, up to Boston when it was a little safer, you know, and then DC, Baltimore, and I think that we're looking in a lot better shape than places that I've seen, and that's because of the programs that we put forward early on. You know, we try to help small businesses so they could stay open and keep those low wage jobs that we knew. We were facilitated outdoor service for as long as we could, and then made sure people could take a drink with them, some things like that. Anything that would help some of those businesses just bump their ticket up a little bit. And then because we got federal help, I think that it was very different to 08. There was that bottom-up help that really made a difference. There was no help in 08. This is different. If we get some heroes money down in January, and we can limp along through December, you know, I think that we're going to survive. But it's just that our survival depends on everybody's personal responsibility that they take, just to be a little bit more careful, so we can all save Christmas. And I want to thank you all for the help that you've given the city. The city is looking beautiful now. So even if you don't want to get out of your car, or you want to pick up something in front of a restaurant or in front of a retail store, pull up, because the lights are so magical, and we couldn't have done it without your help. And the city's looking amazing, and it's worth coming down just to support a small business on that front and see the city of Annapolis.
Yeah, yeah, we've got to make sure that this holiday season is still be a little bit different, but that it's still a holiday season. And so, okay, we have a. I do want to mention though that when you look at the data on unemployment filings, that I don't want to the hurt is major in our county and in our country and in our state, and it's hurting the people who are most vulnerable, and it's gonna we can never do enough for them. But the unemployment filings, new unemployment filings at the beginning of the pandemic, Anne Arundel County was about 10% of the state's filings, and we're about 10% of the state's population. About halfway through, or after 6 or 8 weeks in, really, we started to drop as a percentage of Maryland's unemployment filings. And now we're in the 5 and 6% range of the state. So something's going on economically in our county that our workers are doing a little bit better. Even though we have been a little bit more strict in some of our restrictions. So right now we're at 25% capacity rather than 50% in restaurants. And so there are going to be some people laid off as a result of that, and they're going to file for unemployment, and I sure hope they get it. But it's comparatively, we're in somewhat better shape. Another question from Marty. Another topic here. I don't have last name. Sorry, Gavin. You know any Martys? Maybe when you hear the question, you'll know who it is, huh? Annapolis is a small town. What is the city and the county doing to manage budget deficits?
So, or
projected, I guess you should say.
So we have a plan. I mean, I know it sounds bleak when you read the Capitol and things like that, but we took measures 3 years ago to prepare ourselves for just something like this. We have reserves that can see you through this kind of situation. But we have been lobbying our federal partners for months now, especially I can speak for Annapolis, to make the case that Annapolis is in a donut hole. We didn't get direct funding from the state. The county gave us some funding and a good portion of funding, but as a state capital, we feel we deserve something directly, because we had things that happened in this state capital through COVID that wouldn't have happened if we weren't a state capital. And we made a good amount of progress for that. And I know that a lot of the heroes conversation was about that. We run a business, you run a business, Stuart. We have had our revenues affected. And so we have to be mindful of that, and we need help, just like small businesses, when it comes to revenue shortfalls. I don't think our revenues are going to be as bleak as they say. Most of our revenue is tied to property tax, so we have a different situation to the county. Our property tax market is still strong, and we're going to have to make the cuts that we have to make, but we're going to get through this budget, and we're going to get to the other side of this, and I know that for sure.
Yeah, we don't have a choice about balancing our budget. That by law we have to. We can't. We're not like the federal government that can go print money. But for the county, yeah, we had revenue projections that were pretty bleak early on, and so when we did this last budget, we budgeted according to those projections, and we were fortunate that the decisions that we made in the previous year were fiscally responsible, and that actually included some tax increases. We had been lowering tax rates in the county, and people were screaming that our services weren't keeping up, and that the schools had, the classroom sizes were growing because we weren't hiring teachers and all of those things. And so we did that. And one of the things that happened was that the income tax increase, small increase, it doesn't all come in the first year. It adds in the second and the third. by the way the income tax works. And so that protected us somewhat in this year's budget. And so when we found out that we were going to be losing state money for our crisis intervention teams, which is one of the most important mental health programs we have that works with our police department, we were able to fill the gap and use county funds because we weren't in as dire financial situation as some other jurisdictions. And now, fortunately, the projections turned out to be more bleak than actually the reality. So we're going to end the year a little bit better. The long-term fiscal outlook isn't necessarily great, so we're going to have to be pretty responsible about how we budget going forward. But I can tell you that one of the things that we have learned in this pandemic is that we have huge holes in our safety net to protect the most vulnerable people. And in our county, it's a third of our population, according to United Way, that can't afford the basic necessities of life, can't afford to miss one paycheck. And those are the people who have been losing income in this pandemic. And so the programs that we funded with the CARES Act money, we have got to continue those programs. So as we're looking at our future budgets, it's about health and human services and housing and preventing people from being evicted and making sure people get fed. So we've had a number of questions on that front from somebody named Chrissy on what are we doing for those people, basically. And
I know you've been and I've been to many food drives. I know that our offices of emergency management, our parks and rec, we've set up a food pantry at Pittman. I know on testing, multiple things. I know on shutoffs, everything we could do to help people get through this, obviously hugely terrifying time for people. And obviously the people with the least are affected the most. And so I think that, both you and I strongly care about taking care of our most vulnerable people in the city. And I've been so proud to go to these events and look around and see how it's really brought out the best in people. We really have risen to this occasion, and really people are so generous and they've been so kind and so giving during this time. I want that to continue. Just like I want people to continue walking and biking and going to our great, fabulous parks in the area and exercising and staying outdoors and spending time with their family, all the things that we were kind of forced to do because we're in a COVID situation, but there's some positive things that came out of that.
Yeah. Although I gotta say one thing that's frustrated me about government. Like you said, coming from business and you go into government, there's a hell of a lot of red tape. There's a lot of things you're not allowed to do. The Office of Law says, no, you can't do this. The budget office and the finance office says, no, we have these rules we have to follow. Chrissy said, people are going hungry. What have you put in place in the last 6 months to help the hungry people instead of relying on charity? Why not pay people so they can buy their own food versus getting a 10-pound bag of potatoes or carrots? Really good question. And I have been asking this question of people on my staff, trying to figure out, why can't we just give money to people, right? Let them decide whether it should be spent on paying their rent, their utility bill, food, a pair of shoes for their kid. We shouldn't be making those decisions for families when they're strapped. And so we created a thing, very controversial. We called it the Excluded Worker Humanitarian Fund for people who were excluded from unemployment insurance for various reasons, and found out that, you can't do more than $500, $600 because then you have to do all these tax forms for people. There are all these reasons why you just can't give money away. You can give it away. You can give it away to Amazon, to come into your county. You can give them all kinds of corporate welfare. But to give it to somebody who needs help to be able to stay home because they have COVID and their employer won't cover them, and especially if they're working under the table, it's really hard. So we're still trying to figure that out better, and we might need some legislative changes to make that possible. But the feds can do it. They do unemployment insurance, they do food stamps, and they do those things. But there's all the red tape in those and all the restrictions in those. And they were doing pretty well in the beginning of the pandemic with the extra 600, and then they took that away. So it's the system is not set up to help the little guy. The old trickle down economic theories where you give tax breaks to the people who have the most wealth and assume that somehow that they're going to invest it in a way that the little guy's going to get brought up, has been really proven to not work over the last 40 years. And to me, we got to build our economy from the foundation up. So I'll stop with that speech.
On the car lines, though, at the food drive, I mean, there are mile-long car lines because people are unemployed. People want to work, right? I go to every car that I'll put a box in the back or whatever. That person would much rather be getting a paycheck than having to line up in that car. And it's taken a lot for people to do that. We have to recognize that. But thank God that you're doing it or we're doing it, because it would be desperate. I mean, the economic crisis, I've said, is just as big a challenge for us. We're in the middle of a depression. I feel we've got to deal with a lot more in the future. And so, that's a big task for us,
Yeah. Well, and we got to build back better, right?
Yep.
The Ethics Commission says I'm not allowed to say that anymore, but I'm saying it anyway. We've got to build back better.
Hey, I'm really interested in some of your agritourism. Can I hear some stuff about that, Stu? Because I think that's a great idea, because Annapolis gets attention all the time. And I think it's awesome because it's so, like I say about this, we have the Eastern Shore, which is this bread basket. Where all this great melon and corn and all these sorts of things that should be part of as a restaurant guy, as a foodie, going out to our farms and all the different things that we could create around here and that come out of that thing. I think we get the attention because we're the state capital, but these initiatives are awesome to sort of spread through people throughout the county. I love it.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I sat down at the beginning, pretty early in the pandemic, when it was clear that the food distribution system wasn't working very well, that people were no longer eating in restaurants. And so the suppliers to restaurants kind of had a glut of food, and then everybody was going to the grocery store and buying food there, and the suppliers to the grocery store just didn't have enough food, and they couldn't figure out how to get the distribution system working there for a while. So of course we were thinking, well, we have a lot of land in Anne Arundel County that is in fairly large parcels. It's not cultivated. There's people with huge lawns, ridiculously big lawns in Davidsonville, I've noticed. And I always wonder why they're not, growing something other than grass and putting chemicals on their grass to keep the weeds from coming up. So I said to my kids, 11-year-old twins, what could we do to get more food grown in the county? And, what could government do? And so we started to make a list of all the barriers to people to increasing actually fruit and vegetables and meat. And we came up with things like, they thought it was really funny when we talked about fertilizer, getting some horse poop out to them so that they can integrate it with their soil and improve the quality of their soil, and building fences to keep the deer out, and drilling wells to have water to be able to put water on them, and technical assistance and labor and all the pieces and distribution systems and getting it to the food bank and transportation and all of that. And they came up with a pretty good list. And the farmers are eager to increase production. There's been great demand for locally grown food, which has been good for the few farmers that do that. But I got to tell you that agritourism is great, but it's not the big solution. And what we're actually going to do is take our agritourism commission and turn it into our agriculture commission. It sort of already is that, but really shift the focus on increasing production and removing all the barriers, as many barriers as possible, to production of food locally in the county. And then hopefully they can deliver to your restaurants.
Yeah, local food is where it's at, right? I mean, local food is at, nothing tastes better than something you've
and right now get it to our food bank. Yeah, with a bit of venison too.
Yeah.
That's running around eating up all that food and destroying all those crops.
I'll come out and shoot one of those if you come to Australia and shoot a kangaroo with me. Yeah.
I'm not a hunter myself, but we have created a program, and it's the first big weekend. It's been quite successful, and I know it's been criticized by some, but it's I assure you it's perfectly legal. Our Office of Law says so, and it's actually going to get a lot of good quality protein to the food bank for Anne Arundel County. So yeah, talk a little agriculture, a little. I don't know if there's anything else we're missing, but we're running out of time here. And is there anything else that you got on your mind in Indianapolis?
I just think 2020 has been a tough year for the whole county and the city, but I think people have stepped up, right? I mean, I'm proud of how people have handled themselves through this. I think it's brought out the best in people. I mean, you can focus on the fringes if you want, but that doesn't represent the true population. The true population has really done the right thing, and we're getting close to the other side of it. And so, all I can ask is people to just do the right thing, and we'll be through this, because we're America. We can do anything, and then we're gonna have a great 2021. And I'm looking forward to that year as well, and all the fabulous things we're going to do together. Thank you.
Yeah, I share your optimism that I think it's a moment of change, but I really think that this pandemic has not everybody, but a lot of people, most people, made us understand that we're all connected and that we rely on one another, and that our health is ultimately what matters the most. And when we look at all policy through that prism of basic health and wellness, that's what everybody wants. It turns out we agree. We agree on that, and we agree on the big questions and priorities. And so I think these coming years are going to be real healing years among people. I hope, I believe, and really making our economy much more equitable, but raise everybody when our economy is good, and not just the folks at the top. So that's what we got to do. And I feel like right here in our county, and in the city, we got the right attitude, and we got great people who really want to help one another and make stuff happen. So onward and upward, man.
Right, great. A blue brother. Awesome.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Have you got some of those other pictures? Let me put up a couple of those. This is a triathlon.
Oh, yeah, you got some other pictures, too.
I got a triathlon we did together. That's my son in the middle, I think. Is that out there? And then one of us with Admiral Buck. Yeah.
Oh,
so
God.
Dash did the run. You did the bike or something like that. And then this is us with at the
all right. Well, let me. Yeah, it was before the Military Bowl parade.
Military Bowl, right? Yeah.
But that was not the year we were shoveling the horse shit, right?
Yeah.
What was it? The horse manure.
I want to thank you for that, Stuart. For anyone that isn't listening, I rolled up to a parade and Stuart's like, "I've got an idea," and he handed me a shovel, and I'm like, "This is your idea?"
I had a wheelbarrow, a shovel and a wheelbarrow. We were behind the Clydesdales, and every time they went, they dropped it on the street. The mayor and the county executive had to clean the streets together. So,
thank you.
But marching with Admiral Buck was everybody knows who their mayor is, right? And and then Admiral Buck is in the middle. this tall, handsome guy, in uniform, or he didn't even have the whole uniform, but he just has the aura, right? And I felt like I might as well just go home that year. I was way outclassed, but it was great being with him. And then that other picture, the triathlon picture, you swam. And you used to do triathlon, so Gavin's a pretty decent athlete, it turns out. And then I biked after you, and I thought I was cooking it, man. I was doing great. And then I turned. I was shifting gears as I was downshifting to turn into the little hill going up into the Navy stadium there, and I shifted the front and the back at the same time, and the whole chain popped off. and so I had just gotten these fancy new pedals and bike shoes, where you clip them in, and I hadn't really learned how to get them out. And so I tipped over on the bike as I was stopping and scraped my arm, scraped my leg, got my chain back on, jumped back on the bike, and I think we would have won if I had not done that.
We were good. We had a good time. We finished way early.
Yeah. Well, your son was exhausted by the end of it.
He did,
but it was good. Yeah. I don't know if I want to do it again, but it was a good time.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Well, good evening, everybody. Good evening, Gavin.
Thank you so much for having
Yeah,
me on.
this has been a hoot. Thanks.
Awesome.